Hi, I'm Carl Dieter, the Ethics Officer with Renua, and in this video I'm going to discuss housing policy. You might wonder, what has an Ethics Officer got to do with any policy? And the short answer is virtually nothing. This is just a platform where policies can be explained to you without any political slant. I'm not here to bash other parties, to try and win you over, or to blame others for what happened in the past. It's just to give an explanation without any politics being injected into it. Whether you agree or disagree, that's really up to you. This will just ensure that you get a chance to hear the policy without any noise or debate interrupting the explanation. As an ethics officer, I think that's a good way to do things. People can fight amongst themselves on radio or TV, and you see that all the time, but to get this without any bullshit is an important thing. So we'll start off with a quick breakdown of where we are. What we do know is that since the financial crash, the housing industry has experienced a huge downturn, a period of ongoing decline and stagnation. Activity has virtually stopped, and it hasn't come back to where it needs to be. In the last few years, we created demand rather than supply incentives with things like capital gains waivers, but this mostly meant that existing properties were bought and it didn't help make new homes. I mean, to be fair, it wasn't a bad policy plan at the time, but in retrospect, it shouldn't have been the only answer. It should have been just part of the solution. This has had a big effect on the private rented sector, where you see rents rising and becoming rapidly unaffordable. The Renewal view, and as always feel free to disagree, is that we haven't embraced cradle-to-grave thinking when it comes to housing. And what does that mean? It means you create a mix of dwellings that will suit people at different times in their life. So you have some that suits them when they're a student, when they're an older couple, when they're growing families, right into retirement. But all in the same locality, so people have choices, so that they don't have to move far away when they downsize or upsize. The impact of the failure is pretty visible. So one big plan is to focus on the long-term objective in housing. And the first obstacle is to get housing at a low cost. The state's main role should be to oversee a regulatory regime that can generate affordable housing for its citizens. There's a lot of detail on why this currently isn't the case, which I can't go into now, other than to say that we have a problem when it comes to delivering quality, affordable housing. And that brings us to the basic starting point. Renewal Ireland believe that the state should work with the local authorities to identify sites that are close to services and amenities to develop high-density, mixed-use housing that provides family homes, starter homes, studios, accessible homes for the elderly, and so on. Local authorities can continue to manage these developments, and investors will back them. This is a different way of thinking than what we've done so far. So you get someone to fund it, and then after a period of time on an agreed commercial basis, the development, which is owned by them and they keep the rents, reverts to the state. The privatization of such a scheme will never be allowed. So here are the political commitments. Renewal Ireland will require the Department of Environment and local authorities to audit appropriate high potential sites and identify sites that can come on stream quickly near population centres. They'll introduce a scheme for pension funds or other investors to develop the housing in return for sustainable long-term income flow. They'll introduce a governance and management system through the local authorities that will include residents from their housing schemes. And fourth and lastly, they'll make the local authorities the property management company for these schemes. So in a nutshell, we use land that we already own, I should say. We trade off the rents in exchange for the construction and building. Local authorities and residents are the management company of them. And in the future, when the funders have made their money, we get all the buildings back. That's the simple explanation of a housing policy. That's exactly what Renew Ireland say they want to go for. Thank you for listening.